Well, they get that bell and then they get organised, and now she comes down the centre line to get us underway. First to go here in the Al Shira Grand Prix.
The centre line is one of the most important movements. It's the first time that the judges get to see you both as a combination. So you really want to come in and make a really good impression. Come in, good square halt, and then a really smart trot out.
Okay.
You can just see there she lost his confidence a little bit. He spooked a little bit at the judge. But she's done really well to get him back again before the medium and extended trot. So good rhythm there across at the extended trot. It's always a little bit difficult, that first extended trot, because they are a little bit nervous. You're never quite sure how much to push them or not enough, you know. So you've always got to make sure and feel the horse underneath you. Now we've got the 2 trot half passes coming. Now they're double marked, so they're ×2. So it's really important that you come in and try and get the best score you can. The first half pass was very good, nice and parallel. You can just see she's just losing the quarters there a little bit to the left. It's quite common that a horse is better one way than the other, same as us, we're either left-handed or right-handed. Shame there, just losing the left hind leg in the halt. And ideally, you want to see a little bit more time in the halt. You want to come in, and we always say as riders, count 4 elephants, and then go back, and you want to do 5 strides backwards. That was a little bit too quick, and she just lost the diagonal pair there.
Unfortunately, she's right in front of the judge at sea as well.
Yes, exactly. Well, actually, the 3 judges there have a fantastic view of it, so it's one of those movements you really don't want to mess up. You can see there she went straight from the extended trot into the passage. That is quite a hard transition to get. You've got to keep the hind leg in the extended trot to then come in and keep the activity in the passage. If you don't, you can see what's happening now. She's lost the activity in the piaffe.
Yeah.
So we need a little bit more energy there within the piaffe.
Okay.
Because she lost the energy in the piaffe and lost the stepping, she then didn't get the passage transition out. But this is something where you can see there's a little bit of tension there. You can see she's a little bit nervous, and it's knowing how much you can ride when you're out there.
Yeah, the atmosphere is completely different here this evening, and I think that might just unsettle them a little bit. I mean, she's only been riding Grand Prix tests for a year or so, and if you compare that with like Richard Davison or Carl Hester, who we'll see later, completely different.
Absolutely, and you know, it takes a good solid 2 years to really know what you're doing out there in the Grand Prix itself.
Yeah.
The horse will change every single time you're out there, so the movements will always feel different. You can just see how unsettled he is there in the contact a little bit. He's just nodding his head. So she's just going to come up to the passage transition now, so she has to collect the walk a little bit more. That wasn't too bad at all. So you can just see he's just losing the energy behind a little bit, where you want a bit more energy in the passage just before you come into the piaffe to keep the stepping. But what I like is she was very clever there. She rode the piaffe more forward.
Yeah.
In the first piaffe, she wanted a little bit more on the spot, and he died a little bit on her. So there she was very clever and thought, no, I'll keep it a little bit more stepping, a little bit more forward to make sure she keeps the energy. Then she got the passage transition out. So that was very well ridden. Good canter transition there. Nice impulsion.
When your horse comes in and it is a little bit tense, how do you keep, you know, that in the back of your mind and manage just to keep riding through the movements? You know this Grand Prix like the back of your hand. Sure.
Most of us Grand Prix riders dream about it at night. So it's always there. When you're out there, you're really not thinking about where you're going. You don't have time to think about where you're going and trying to focus on the horse with the movements coming up. It's a shame there. I think everyone would have seen that she just had a mistake in the 2 times. So that's really expensive, sadly. So if you have one mistake in the 2 times, it's a 5. And then obviously another mistake, it goes lower down. So that will be expensive. Coming to the extended canter here. Good ground cover, but she just needed to be a little bit more uphill, but I think she's playing it a little bit safe, which is a very good thing to do out there. Then we're coming into the zigzag, so 6 strides sideways, and then into the flying change.
This is a tough movement to ride.
It's a really tough movement. You don't have a lot of time to correct anything. If there's a mistake in there, it's incredibly difficult to get it back before you have to go sideways again. You know, the judges want it incredibly symmetrical, uphill, and good balance. To be able to do that in a zigzag is very, very difficult, but she did a good job out there. Now she's come into the 1 times. We've got 15 1 times.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, and they're double marks. So you really have to make sure that those double marks you've got to get when you can. She didn't have any mistakes there at all, which is very good. They were swinging a little bit, but the actual changes themselves were clear. And that's always a nice feeling. Once you've got the one times over as a rider, you always think, we can breathe a little bit now. Coming into the canter Prix here. You can just see a little bit where he's a bit tense, that he's just coming off the hind leg there, so it was a little bit too big. We tried to aim to have 6 to 8 equal steps in the canter pirouette. So it's just losing that quickness there, that rhythm there, but she did very good to keep him stepping. So now she's going to the trot transition, and then into the last extended trot. You know, it's really interesting out there how the atmosphere can affect their energy, and they get tired quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big thing for them to be out there, big workup, and also they can feel the rider being a little bit nervous as well, and all of a sudden you come to this final centre line, you've got no energy. So you go passage, and they go, I'm all right, thank you.
Sure.
And then they have a cup of tea at X, which is always a lovely feeling when you should be piaffing. So as a rider, you've got to keep them energised right till the very end. You could just see they're thinking, I want to halt, I want to halt. But she's doing really well, keeping that stepping. From here, that looks quite straight. Good transition out. That was actually my favourite transition into the passage that she's done through the whole test. So she rode very well there to keep the forward impulsion.
And then the final salute.
Final salute was when you can finally breathe. So no, I think she'll be very pleased with that, especially being out in this environment with him. It is one of the biggest things that she's done, so that's really exciting. You can just see how happy she is on her face. You know, there was no really major mistakes out there. Yes, okay, the twos were expensive and a little bit of the PF, but to go out there and do a test like that for your first time somewhere like this is really good.
Oh, she's got big dreams to ride at the Olympics. You know, she was born in Iran and she moved to Rome when she was 24, spent some time in the UK as well. But I mean, she really, I think, is the only Iranian female dressage rider on the international circuit.
Yes, she is, and I mean, how amazingly is she doing? So that's absolutely fantastic. So currently we're on 61.455%.
Yeah, they're starting to flow in now, so we've got our panels of judges all the way around the arena. Starting to come in, just waiting for that judge at H as well. She's been scoring at the moment kind of high 50s, low 60s within the Grand Prix.
And that is, the mark is a little bit lower there because the Piaf is a double mark, so therefore if you don't have the energy and they do stop in the Piaf, it's very expensive.